Let's go.
You know what, the top 10 lists for hand-to-hand fights have been hits, so why not have one for gunfights? I mean, guns are as cool as martial arts and hand-to-hand combat, don't you agree? They make for a lot of intense and exciting sequences, but instead of fists flying, you see bullets getting fired. With this video, I hope you'll appreciate gunfights just as much. I want to show you that shootouts are every bit just as exciting as the more physically oriented fights you've been treated to with anime's cream of the crop. Now, without further ado, let's get the show rolling. Starting off the list, we have a mirror match. Yes, it's Toru versus Toru in the finale of Gunslinger Stratos. Gunslinger Stratos, the animation's pretty much the textbook definition of a game commercial. Overall, the plot and the animation wouldn't be winning any awards anytime soon, but at least it did give us a banger of a final battle where two versions of the same character face off. With that being said though, I think that some gunfights end up being nice spectacles, and this is one of them. Coming off the big twist, this gunfight does deserve its purpose as well as the climax of the series. Oh, and they made two endings to this as well. There's a good ending and a bad ending. And I remember a time when the few who watched the show debated on which one the anime wanted to keep as canon. Now that's something you don't see in anime too often now, do you? Now, with a title like GunGrave, you'd probably expect a lot of cool shootouts. Well, this title doesn't disappoint, and it brings us to our next entry on the list. Grave vs Bunji starts off just like a lot of the shooters that you've played in the 2000s. Meeting in an empty lobby, the two begin letting the bullets fly while chasing each other to the beat of kick-ass music. In a way, it kind of reminds me of those Western films with a lot of bullet time and flying around by both combatants. Flashbacks of stuff like Max Payne, anyone? Some people may find the art style kind of dated, but if you can look past that, this encounter is a gunfight to remember. A Canaan fight makes it to number 8, and it's the showdown between Canaan and Alphard. Encountering each other inside a train, the bullets were quick to fly in this high-octane duel between the two characters. The hype was there, the tension was there, so it's time for the battle to begin. It's a long, drawn-out affair that sees the fight spilling out of the confines of the train and into everywhere. The two just won't stop even as they resume fighting outside the cabin and despite how far the train's traveled. I like this battle because of the fact that while it's primarily a gunfight and marketed as such, the two fighters don't limit their arsenals to their guns. Knives get thrown, hair gets pulled, the hand-to-hand combat is there as well. I'm not even sure if I cheated by putting this fight on the list actually, given how varied the direction of the fight went, but it's just such a good fight that I wouldn't want you to miss it. Speaking of gunfights that aren't really direct shootouts, one of the most hyped up fights in Mahouka makes its entry on this list. The opening video itself makes this out to be the fight of destiny in the series' first half, and for me, it didn't disappoint. Before this episode, we saw a lot of build-up for Masaki's dangerous blood magic, but since lethal magic's prohibited in the tournament, a lot of viewers were instead left to wonder what tricks Masaki has in his sleeves. A lot of acrobatics in display from Tatsuya as the two leaders of their respective teams square off. You can't help but feel amazed at the camera angles and how they show the speed at which everything happens. Just as quick as Masaki makes those magic circles, Tatsuya shoots them down while rolling and flipping in the air. It's not a direct gunfight, but it's every bit as satisfying. I also find it neat that this fight ends not with a gunshot, but with the finger snap of doom. Sasuga Onisama indeed. Reappearing on another list is something that we've covered recently. Yep, it's the sibling fight of the ages featuring Vash the Stampede and his brother. The two have a relatively simple fight by modern anime standards, but I can't stress the impact and the importance of this fight in terms of the anime storyline. The fight's filled with tension and shows us how Knives gets the advantage due to knowing more about Vash's trump card. Their shots colliding is a sight to see. We've been spoiled by technology in modern animation now, but this is one of the most epic scenes that fans 2 decades ago can lay witness to. Not a lot of shots get fired, but those few ones that do get fired have all the weight and power behind them. At our halfway mark is Fabiola versus the Colombian Cartel. There are great gunfights that are epic clashes and back and forth affairs, and we remember them mostly for their on-point sequences and flashy animation. Then, there are one-man army moments that, while are also memorable in terms of animation, we mostly remember them for showcasing how strong a particular character is. This scene from Black Lagoon falls into the latter category. We've known the reputation of the Colombian Cartel for so long, but in this particular instance in Black Lagoon, they just picked the wrong hood to mess with. Enter ninja-maid Fabiola, who runs wild on them thanks to all her weapons and her clever utilization of the environment to her advantage. She leaves with a beautiful massacre in her wake, showing everyone that maids are never to be underestimated, especially in anime. Rune Balot taking on Dimsdale boiled in Mardock's Scramble, the third exhaust, is a joy to watch. Nothing really pleases action enthusiasts more than a nice shootout with all the build-up and tension before the blow-off. The fight's drawn out and features a lot of great cuts and details that will leave you amazed and at the edge of your seats. The sci-fi setting just adds to the sequence, and I really like just how smooth and sleek everything looks. I think that some people might find the color overlay a bit distracting for this sequence, but I think that it's not that much of a big deal. I'm more concerned with how not a lot of people know this series of movies. I mean, it's a shame really. You should definitely give it a try. The second good news is that this is not the last cinematic entry that we'll be seeing on this list. Stay tuned for more. What a magnificent sequence of events. The final showdown between Spike and Vicious is at hand, but before that, Spike has to go through Red Dragon's headquarters. What follows is an amazing sequence of bullet hell reminiscent of something like Max Payne. Spike charges the building and engages the members of the Syndicate in what seems like reckless abandon. There's no shortage of action as he encounters enemies at every turn, forcing him to use every weapon at his disposal to its full potential. This includes setting bombs and making full use of what armament he has, all to lead to a much-awaited showdown against Vicious. The preceding fight against Vicious is just as amazing, with the two settling things in a more traditional duel complete with John Woo references. It's not a shootout, but the one-on-one final battle deserves every bit of credit for being an epic climax to this classic. The magnum opus of Shaft cinematic fights. I think that it's safe to say that this fight is the fight that represents the peak of Madoka Magica in terms of animation. Taking place in the third movie, fans finally got the battle they never got in the series proper, pitting Homura's entire arsenal of weapons against Mami's magical muskets. The two go at each other with blitzing speed as they fly from building to building in their fight. Sparks fly and bullets spray in the two's bid to shoot each other down, with one rare pause in the battle giving us one of the most iconic shots in the series, where the two point at each other with all of those bullet lines in the foreground. Madoka Magica might not be a series known for its fights more than its themes and symbolism, but anyone just watching this fight won't be able to figure that out. Short but sweet. While Mami vs Homura was a long drawn-out dance, Odasaku vs Gide is just about a minute long. However, the two still had one amazing and spectacular gunfight, with each fighter predicting each other's moves and doing microsecond dodges before firing back with a shot of their own. The sheer speed of how things happened is just bonkers in this. I mean, the only gunfight that can beat a gunfight between two magical girls at their peak has to be one involving even more broken powers. Am I right? Yes? Precognition in anime can be a tricky ability to write, but when you put two characters with similar powers and have them go at it, the result is simply beautiful. I can't stress how context matters though. To a regular watcher, the guys might seem like people who can't shoot for shit or have epic dodge timing, but it all makes sense once you figure out it's basically two Sharingan users taking each other on. 10 gunfights later, I wonder what you think about them. Do you still prefer hand-to-hand fights over gunfights? Do you prefer to see bullets flying or fists flying? I'd like you to tell me your choice in the comment section below and why. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. For now, that's got to do it. Stay tuned for more content on the next top 10 list only here on VinnyTube.